Good evening. My name is Colin Smith. I'm the chair of the Human Relations Commission for the city of Palo Alto. We are doing a special meeting this month to replace a regular monthly meeting. At this point, I would like for staff to do the roll call, please, for this meeting.
Sure. Commissioner Everly,
Here.
Commissioner Kraus,
Here.
Commissioner Regier,
Here.
Commissioner Savage, is absent. Chair Smith, Councilmember Stone,
Thank you so much.
Here.
Thank you so much. Do we have any agenda changes? All right. And now we have two members of the public. Sorry, let me say this. We have agenda changes. No agenda changes are requested this time. Okay. We have oral communications. Quite simply, if an item is not on the agenda, this is the opportunity to speak. Staff, do we have anybody with their hands up to speak at this time?
We have one member of the public, Chair, two members of the public, Chair.
They will each have 2 minutes, if we can put the timer up for them.
Okay. Okay, you ready, Mary? Okay. So our first speaker is Aram James, followed by Roberta Alquist. So Aram, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I thought the agenda had mentioned 3 minutes like the city council is doing. Am I wrong? Are we limited to 2 minutes?
Two minutes, so go ahead, please.
With only 2 speakers, we're still going to limit it to 2 minutes?
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I wanted to speak with you because I mentioned in a letter to you that I wanted to send you resource materials on this hate speech, the standalone hate speech ordinance that has been proposed by City Council Member Tanaka. First, the book I'd like you to look at is Freedom for the Thought We Hate by Anthony Lewis. I sent you a letter independent of the letter that I had printed in the Post this last week. But I want to read briefly from Anthony Lewis, who was a Jew himself, a great journalist. He's long passed away now. And at page 160 of the book, Freedom for the Thought We Hate, the following: a French legal scholar and jurist said that Europeans would not accept Americans' tolerance for hateful speech. The American view, he suggests, must be based on a social and historical optimism, which Europeans could not expect to share after the tragic experience at the hands of the Nazis and the communists. Later on the next page, he goes, this is the dominant view in Europe, but it is not the only one. The Economist, the British weekly, with an orientation towards the United States, made strong arguments in 2006 that laws criminalizing Holocaust denial and other forms of racist speech, that such laws, it warned, could be interpreted to punish or restrain speech that merely causes offense. The big danger, The Economist wrote, is that in the name of stopping bigots, one may end up by stopping all criticism. I wish I could have another minute, but I guess the chair will insist on a 2-minute undemocratic limitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Aram. The next speaker is Roberta Alquist. Roberta, go ahead, please. There
Yes,
you go.
Attorney. I'm with Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. I have 3 concerns. One, the City Council has mandated that you address the CEDAW declaration. I don't see any action on this, and I think it's time for the Human Relations Commission to get the City Council to move on this declaration for the elimination of discrimination against women. That's number 1. Number 2, we need low-income housing, not townhouses, not 4 buildings on 1 lot. We need low-income housing, and until we mandate that specific request, we're not going to be able to serve our workers. So please work on this with the City Council. We also need a moratorium on office space until we get housing, or we're never going to get any housing. So the city of San Jose has been dealing with trying to build low-income housing for some time, as have other cities. Please, it's time that Palo Alto gets off of its rear end and actually commits to providing some kind of incentive such that we get true, affordable, low mixed income housing for our service workers. And the last item is, I think that Tanaka went way out of his way to not deal with the issues of CEDAW by addressing hate crimes. People have free speech in this country. It's one of the few things left. Speech is one thing. Hate crimes and acting on that speech is quite another. I certainly wish the Human Relations Council Commission would pump up their action and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. There are no more hands, Chair.
Thank you to the public for your continued engagement in our democracy. All right. I'd like to move on to the approval of minutes. Can I get a motion from somebody to approve the minutes? I assume we've all have reviewed the minutes.
Let's move to approve the minutes, please.
Do
From
we have-
August 12th, 2021.
Can I have a second on that motion, please?
I second it.
All right, we have a move, we have a motion. We'll take votes in alphabetical order from the top of it. Commissioner Everly,
Aye.
Commissioner Krause,
Aye.
Commissioner Regehr,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith, aye. We have a unanimous vote on the minutes. That's a good start. All right, let us move to business item number 1 to provide context. And then we will have public comment on this, and then we shall move forward. Last month, Claire Campbell and Lauren Bigelow presented to us a comprehensive study with several recommendations, and they were looking for the HRC to provide recommendations and support before it goes to the council. These are specifically to deal with privatization, renters protection across the city. We've so far, sorry, pulling up my notes. We've so far did motions on rental survey program, tenant relocation assistance, eviction reduction, anti-rent gouging. Tonight, we're going to deal with security deposit limits, fair chance ordinance, right to counsel, tenant and community opportunity to purchase act. So those are that's what's left on the plate. I would like to open up for public comment at 2 minutes, please. You're muted.
Chair, did you want to check if staff had any report first?
Yes.
Or any update that they wanted to give first?
That would be a good idea. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. You've done a great job at kind of bringing everybody back up to speed, so I don't think I need to do that. I'll just remind everybody that once we get through today's meeting with the HRC recommendation, we will then be forwarding your recommendation as well as the Planning Commission's recommendation to City Council for consideration. And that is targeted for November 1st, so pretty soon. And then again, just to remind everyone, what we're trying to do tonight is get your feedback on these policies. And I know we've got 5 more to go through. And then the final step is to give some prioritization on which ones you think are the key ones we should focus on first. And if it turns out that maybe trying to figure out all 9 is a little bit too complicated, we could always end up identifying maybe the top 3 or 4, something like that. Top 3, that sounds great. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm going to open public comment, then I'll ask for staff to make a quick blurb about each one. Open it up to commissioner questions, then we'll see what kind of motion we can craft afterwards, all right? Do we have any public comments? You're muted, Mika.
We do not. I don't see any raised hands, Chair.
Good, all right. Staff, if you can give an overview of security deposit limits.
Claire, you want me to start there? Got it. Okay. 1 second, and I will share my screen with you if that's acceptable. Fabulous. Okay. Let me stick that in, not that. There we go, sort of. It has to catch up with how quickly I'm going through the slides. Sorry, guys. Okay, so here we are at security deposit limits. The kind of quick points I'm gonna talk about quickly are that essentially rent is $3,003 a month in the city of Palo Alto on average. And the California Civil Code allows landlords to charge 2 times the rent for an unfurnished unit or 3 times the rent for a furnished unit as security deposit, which means $9,009 would be what people have to come up with to enter, to start as a tenant at someplace in Palo Alto on average, which means it might be lower, but it might be higher, but this is right in the middle of our average. And we thought it would be really impactful for lower income households. The cost would be minimal to us because it's just a code amendment. The feasibility would be high. And the PTC voted 5-2 that council consider limiting security deposits to 1.5 times the rent as opposed to the current California Civil Code, which says 2 times. Do you want me to keep going through 6 through 9?
No, we'll go one at a time.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Commissioners, do we have any questions? Can we just unshare for 2 seconds? Yes. Commissioners, do we have any questions on this action or on this recommendation?
I do. May I ask a
Yes.
question, Lauren? It seems tremendously prohibitive in cost. And yet another way that renters are prejudiced against. Can we differ from the California Civil Code? Give me the idea of what the latitude is that we can go, that we can reason our way to. Because almost 50% of people in Palo Alto rent now, and it's increasing at a steady rate.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that you raise excellent points. I'll say in the staff report, table 9 calls out several different security deposit limits that other places across the nation have considered, including 1, 1.5, 2 times. So there is precedent for going lower than 1.5 times. What our
Okay.
staff recommendation was 1.5 times, and that is what the PTC moved forward with as well.
Okay, so it would not be audacious if we recommended something like one times?
I would say that you have solid precedent, but it would also be something that our neighbors in the Bay Area aren't necessarily doing. So we have to kind of balance. We had to look further afield
Right.
for this precedent. That's all.
And can I ask you specifically, because don't have things at my fingertips, what does Mountain View do? And what does Redwood City and Menlo Park do? Those are our neighbors.
They are, and none of them restrict security deposit limits.
Interesting. It's amazing.
Well, I think.
Well, fellow
could say-
commissioners, would you entertain? Would match PTC at 1.5 times?
Before we go to a motion, Michelle, I would like to see if any other commissioners have a question.
I guess my only question is, are we supposed to either agree or disagree? Are we supposed to come up with our own option? My understanding is that we're simply reviewing these and then we're prioritizing these at the end.
Right.
So we're stuck with 1.5.
No,
So-
Claire raised her hand.
Yeah, thank you. So we would ask that the HRC review each of the policies and basically provide feedback on whether you generally support the concept of it. And if you see something like this, 1.5 times the rent, or if you think it's 1 times the rent, the HRC can make that recommendation to modify. You don't necessarily have to follow precisely what the PTC did. In fact, you did things differently at the last meeting as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I have a question. So the only limitation on one is because Menlo Park didn't do it. Is that the limitation on the one time over is because of a regional thing?
So the argument for or against less than 2 times is that it allows the property management companies to self-govern, and some of them charge 2 times, some of them charge less than 2 times. And so there's nobody forcing them to charge less than 2 times. The law says they can charge up to 2 times that. So some of them charge less, some of them charge exactly that because that's what they're allowed to do.
Okay. Commissioners, do we have any other questions?
Well,
And Councilmember Stone?
That I don't have any questions, just following along the conversation. Thank you, Chair Smith.
Raise your hand. Commissioner.
I have a problem in regards to discussing each one as like they're separate. I think that we should look at them all and then prioritize and then take it for what it is, because I just feel like if we're going, there's certain things that are going to make a difference about the 1 point in regards to the city council and the whole, how it affects the community. And I think looking at the 1.52 versus 1 as a separate entity is important, but I think that we shouldn't be focusing on that and spending all our time 0.5. You know what I'm saying is that there's a lot of things that are in here that are for renters and which is good. And I think that's my only comment is if we're supposed to be looking at them all and then prioritizing, that's one thing, but are we spending our time voting? You know what I'm saying?
So this is the thing, it asks people to prioritize on something they haven't actually made a decision on. Like you can't say let's prioritize the list and we haven't decided what our emotions on the list are.
Right.
Because, if we do the list first and then we go through and do other motions, then it could upset how we prioritized before. So that was sort of the choosing the methodology, because I felt like in these discussions, then we could say doing 1.5 is better than a fair chance. Having somebody with the ability to get into a home is probably into a rental situation at $6,000 instead of $9,000 is probably better than XYZ option. So
Right.
that was sort of the thought of the methodology. Any other questions? So Commissioner Kraus, you had a motion that you would like to present to the floor, please.
Yes, I would. I would like to limit the security deposit to 1 time. Not to, a point of reference, just an argument for that. One of the largest residential commercial owners is V-Rent, or the Genovese family. And I believe they own close to 50 units of B-level properties and C-level properties. And they do not charge more than $1,000 of security department per unit. So I don't think this is audacious or completely out of perspective, that we have some precedent here. And please, Lauren and Claire, I don't know how many exact units, but I know that it's a large amount. And they seem to be leading the pack. So we may not get as much pushback if we decide to take a bold stand.
Okay, so I just need
The motion is 1 time.
Can we just give Mary a moment to put a sheet of paper on the
Yes.
screen so we can adequately,
Wait, before we do that,
oops, sorry, Chair.
can Lauren put up the motion from the PTC so that we can have the link?
1 point, yeah.
Because I think that will help when time for Mary to make the motion, it will make it a lot easier.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
So I would assume, Michelle, you'd want to say the HRC recommends the council considers limiting security deposits to 1 time the rent.
Yes. Or as staff says, staff makes it wordier in their memorandum, but yes.
Mary, did you see what's on the screen?
Mary, I took a picture of it, so if you get your screen on, I will reread it to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
So,
Did I move too quickly?
no, you didn't. There we go. So it
Okay.
would be the HRC recommends that council consider limiting security deposits to 1 time the rent. To 1 time the rent.
Period.
So
Good.
Commissioner Kraus, I will second the motion for Commissioner Kraus.
Thank you.
We are now open for discussion. Does anybody have any points that they would like to make on this?
I do actually. I do have a problem with this blanket motion because it also affects landlords that maybe just have 1 property. And the problem with 1 time the rent is that sometimes a renter might vacate before paying the last month's rent. And if they do that, then there's damage to the property, you end up with zero money to pay for any damages. So that would be my concern.
Commissioner Kraus, would you take a friendly amendment to make it 1.5 after that consideration?
Yes.
Thank you.
Would you second that?
We'll definitely second that. So we could go back to 1.5 times the rent. Any other discussion points? All right. I'll take a vote starting at the bottom of the alphabet. That will be Smith first. I go aye. Regier,
Aye.
Kraus,
I,
Eberly.
Aye.
Nice. Thank you so much. All right. Lauren.
All right, next up, we have the Fair Chance Ordinance, and let me get that on the screen for you. Just as a quick reminder, at its heart, it is essentially an anti-discrimination policy. So it is supposed to limit how much landlords can discuss criminal background or where in the application process they can ask about that. So it really impacts highly those who have been released from an incarceration and makes an argument for them not having to continue to pay for what they were incarcerated for. Because there's a lot that has been said about how disproportionately those impact individuals, and also how having stable housing really, really makes a difference in whether recidivism happens and people go back to jail. So we said that this was highly impactful, particularly for Black and Latinx individuals, as I mentioned, who are disproportionately impacted by incarceration. The cost would be minimal because it is a code amendment. The feasibility is, this is a touchy subject for a lot of people, and it's kind of difficult to grapple with. So we thought the feasibility would be moderate due to the subject matter, but the city's costs would, and the effort involved in churning out language regarding creating a law would be somewhat low. So as is stated here, the PTC recommended limiting the landlord's ability to inquire about an applicant's criminal history. And I will stop sharing now.
All right. Any questions from any commissioner?
I have a question, as usual. If we limit and successfully agree on that, are there limitations of disclosure for sex offenders? How do we deal with that whole problem? Maybe you could make me smarter on this, please.
Well, I doubt at all that I could make you smarter. You seem like a very intelligent individual as is, but
Thank you.
with regard to checking on the sex offenders list, there are carve-outs in several different things that are considered North Star policies that have been created by organizations like Just Cities that have carve-outs for being able to check on the sex offenders list and differentiating from between those two things.
Okay.
Any other commissioner questions? All right. Minka, can you read the motion?
I certainly can. Mary, do you want to get a page on the screen?
So as they do that, I feel very strongly that about fair chance ordinances and ordinances similar to this, because I think if we say to people they pay their debt to society, holding something over their head and handicapping them, I think is not fair. So I definitely want to make the move on this motion, but I would like to hear the language one more time.
So the language was from PTC was PTC recommends limiting landlord's ability to inquire about an applicant's criminal history. Staff seeks council's recommendation regarding when in the lease-up process inquiries would be acceptable.
Okay.
So I will make a similar motion like that, HRC. Can I get a second?
Yes.
Okay, we'll have,
Well-
I'll have Mary, we have a second, so let's have Mary get it, and then we'll go to questions. So recommends limiting landlord's ability to inquire about an applicant's criminal history, period. Staff seeks council recommendation regarding when council recommendation regarding when in the lease-up process inquiries would be acceptable.
You have a so that's my motion, seconded by Commissioner Kraus.
Mhm.
All right, we're open for discussion. Any other commissioner point?
I am totally my only discussion is that I just want us to be realistic about how effective this will be as, people can search online and find lots of information about applicants. So I totally agree with this motion and I approve it, but I just want us to all keep that in mind as well.
I agree.
I agree with Commissioner Everett. I think this just gets, how can I put it? The blatant front door stuff out of the way. You can research anybody online, but we're just gonna have to make them, this is like a fence, we're just gonna make them work harder at it, so.
I think, hi, this is Patty Regier. Commissioner, I think what it's doing, I think we could take a vote, but I think what it's doing is it's saying that just because they're renters, that they're not necessarily more criminals than they are if you're doing an Airbnb in our neighborhood or an owner. No one checks, criminal. And I think that's what the statement for me stays, is like, just because you're a renter, that doesn't mean you're more apt to be a more criminal than someone else. And I think it's just a good statement more than, this levels the playing field to be equal, whether or not you're a renter or if you're an owner or renting an Airbnb or in a hotel room. That's why I think it's important.
Okay.
If I might chime in.
Yes, that's clear. I'm sorry, every time there's something on the screen, I can't see who speaks. So.
Got it.
That's clear.
Sorry, it's
That was
Lauren.
Hey, Lauren.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to chime in and say that there are a lot of different places where this information comes up in the process of somebody getting into a unit. There's the physical application where you input all of your contact information. There's marketing. All of these places are places where folks can call out history or kind of filter out entire subsets of the population. And that's kind of what we're trying to protect against, is by saying that people who have made mistakes in the past shouldn't be completely and for all foreseeable future banned from having housing.
Period. Yeah,
Thank you for that, Lauren.
thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Do we have any other comments from staff? From, not staff, from commissioners.
Well, this Patty again, I do have a question specifically to Lauren, or if let's say, because it actually happened, I am a landlord, and it did happen when someone wanted to rent out our house, making lots of money, and they were willing to pay lots for the house because it's our house that we rent out. It has, but they wanted to turn it into a halfway house for people that, and I was really thinking that it'd be good, but at the same time, I was thinking about my neighbors and how it wasn't really fair to have people that had just come out, even though they did pay their, I mean, I was really thinking as what it is to be neighborly. And is this a good place to put? So how would it affect those types of situations if each person that was going to rent a room out to a particular organization, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I
how would this work?
do, and I hear your concern, and I just want to make a couple quick points.
Mhm.
One, we are not in charge of coming up with the ordinance language precisely tonight. So
Right.
we are just doing feedback on general ideas. The intricacies of the policies are going to take a little bit more research and community conversations about, to hear what the real needs of Palo Alto are. And we're very much interested in doing that. So I think that we could spend a lot of time on the what ifs, and they would be really interesting, but I don't know that it would necessarily serve us best tonight. Second, I would just say that you proposed something very interesting, and in that thought experiment itself, I would perhaps talk to your neighbors and see how they feel about it, because a lot of it is just having conversations about humans and really discussing what does it mean to have a fair chance to have success, because having housing and secure and stable housing is something that hugely impacts a person's ability to succeed in the future. And if we limit the supply of those opportunities, what does that say about us?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, the whole thing, but I'm just saying, I wasn't trying to get theoretical, but this motion right here, I was asking specifically, how would that affect that scenario? And I don't want to get into, because it's hard for me to vote on something if I don't know who would have an impact. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I asked the question to Lauren, not Lauren.
Okay. This is Claire. I'm just going to add a little bit more to that. I think the scenario that you're presenting, where someone has a home and they want to operate, you were saying a halfway house or something like
Right.
or something like that. So in that scenario, that wouldn't be your typical residential use.
Right.
So then there are other things that would need to come into play and to consider. So that wouldn't be the same classification where what we're thinking about with this particular policy. in front of you today.
Well, Claire and Lauren, would the zoning be impacted if you had a philanthropic activity going on in a residential zoned arena?
So,
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
no, Claire, go.
So every zone district has its own set of uses that are permitted. And so we would need to take a look at whatever's happening there. So regardless of whether it's nonprofit or not, we do have these uses that need to be considered that are clearly outlined in our zoning code for each of the zone districts that we would need to look at.
Okay. All right, any other discussion points? All right, let's take a vote. We'll start at the top of the alphabet. Commissioner Eberly,
Aye.
Commissioner Kraus,
Aye.
Commissioner Regier,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith, aye. Okay, thank you. Staff, next item.
Okay, next up, we have the notion of right to counsel, which is really supposed to get at how few renters actually have legal representation when they go to court. As is quoted here, only 2% of folks who go to court for unlawful detainers, or UDs as they're frequently called, have legal representation. And studies have been done on right to counsel that have shown how significantly having legal representation changes the future of how that plays out for the households that are in the unlawful detainer. So this idea builds off the already existing mediation program. And the reason behind it is that the associated costs with displacement and due to eviction are significant. So while right to counsel is a costly proposition, it really gets at stemming the tide of evictions and landlords and tenants coming together to find solutions. Okay, so there we go. We thought that this would be highly impactful to those especially who are at risk of displacement due to eviction. However, the cost is very substantial unless there is a spot bill that is out now called AB 1487 that is supposed to help set up and flesh out programs that like right to counsel. And this has been really supported at the national level, and San Jose is currently exploring it. The feasibility at this point in time seems low due to the cost. So what the PTC and staff recommended was that the city endorse the concept of the right to counsel, advocate to the county, to their courts and to the Board of Supervisors that an eviction court be established, which they're in process of doing now, and also support legislative efforts to fund right to counsel.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Unfortunately, I've got lots of experience with this from the last major project with a President Hotel conversion. Because the residents there may have been low income, but they weren't characterized that way. There was a severe limitation of availability of nonprofit counsel, and mediation. So the residents were faced with this problem and each contributed to a legal fund in which counsel was hired. I think this is another aspect of fair choice and fair options that we should do a better job on. Because most of them they can't afford this. Not only do they have the cost of moving and the cost of relocation, but they don't stand a chance in court without counsel, given our zoning codes and the complexities.
Commissioner Everly, you were going to say something?
Yes, two things. First, I wanted to know where the statistic, the 98% not having legal representation, where that comes from. Are we talking about Santa Clara County, City of Palo Alto, the state?
It's a
So-
great question. There's a national camp. I'm sorry, do you want me to answer now or would you like to get through your questions first?
No, go ahead. And then I have a follow-up after.
Okay, great. So this is from a 2015 study done through the state of New York, in which they looked at a whole bunch of different jurisdictions, but has been basically replicated and reiterated in various studies since then through that have been done through there's a national organization to support a movement for right to counsel. And they have continuously found that remarkably high rates of tenants do not have legal counsel if they pursue going to court at all, because a significant amount of tenants who are, when given an eviction notice, just leave it at that and do not fight.
Right.
My follow-up comment is that in San Mateo County, the Community Legal Services of East Palo Alto has a clinic on Unlawful Detainer Day, and everybody gets counsel. So they work with law firms in the area to get attorneys to come in and volunteer pro bono. And I was one of those volunteers, so I've helped them out. And I believe it's one day of unlawful detainers and everybody gets a lawyer that shows up there.
Wow.
So I think that maybe the city of Palo Alto needs to talk to them and figure out how to maybe extend their services to Santa Clara County, but I know that, there are organizations out there that do provide this kind of service. So that's all.
There are.
Commissioner Everly, do you find that day is very effective with the renters?
Yes, I believe that they were effective.
Are they bilingual or trilingual?
Now, I haven't volunteered with them in a while. I know that there are bilingual attorneys that work there, and I think it depends on who the volunteers are. They do also have interpreters in court,
Okay.
always.
CLESPA is a brilliant, brilliant organization, and they do work very strongly in East Palo Alto. They do a little bit of work in Palo Alto, but not a ton. Also, Stanford has a program where they try and help folks. Part of the issue with all of these things is going to be how you actually get the information out to tenants, and make sure that they understand that there are resources out there. So there are little bits and pieces that we can find all over the place to help tenants, but this, I think, is trying to take all of the little bits and pieces and have really cohesive action and programmatic structure.
Okay. As I read the resolution that you're asking us to look at, basically, you're asking the HRC, as you ask the PTC, to basically support or speak to legislation that's happening at a state and county level.
That's correct, because we felt like asking City of Palo Alto to establish their own individual program would be a tough sell, but getting involved in a county program, getting involved at the state level where we potentially have someone who lobbies for us, those were potentially really impactful things that we could do that didn't cost the city a lot of money.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any other questions? All right. I will entertain a motion. Or Minka, do you have the motion that?
Mary has been
Oh,
copying
look,
it
look
ahead
at
of time.
the score. All
I'm
right.
happy to make that motion.
Thank you. I wasn't going to say all of that. I'll second it.
Oh,
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mary. You're a rock star.
Yeah, she really is. All right, let's start from the bottom of the alphabet since we started from the top of the alphabet the last time. We have discussion. Any discussion points? I'm sorry. No discussion points. Commissioner Vergeer,
aye.
Commissioner Krause,
Aye.
Commissioner Everly.
Aye.
Thank you. We only got one left to go.
Yay.
I believe we have 2 to go. Right?
No, we right to council. Oh, sorry. It was on the next page. Next page, sorry. We have 2 to go.
You were so excited to be done with us that
I was like, we might get done before 7 o'clock. I was ready to go. I was like, yeah. This is not a-
we can still try. 7
We
minutes, 3.5
we get
for
7
each
minutes.
one.
And I will ask you why you prioritize the list. There will be the way you did, so that when we get to our prioritization questions, we'll at least have an understanding of why you recommended it the way you did. So let's do tenant and community opportunity to purchase that.
Okay, here you go. All right, so basically at its very, very simplest, we didn't spend a huge amount of time fleshing this out because this was something that we studied but didn't necessarily recommend. So it provides renters with advance notice of when a landlord is selling as a way for tenants or potentially the community to get together and organize and pool funds and try and buy the property. And we thought it would be really, really impactful for folks who lived in properties that were due to be sold. And the cost for the city would be very minimal. But the other side of that to consider is that the median property in Palo Alto is in the millions of dollars. And how often would a policy like this get utilized? Is that it's something to consider? Is it something we need to act on right now? Those are the things that's why we rated the feasibility very low. And we said that the PTC recommends 6-1, that the city not move forward with the policy at this time. However, they did vote to request council to direct staff to pursue other means for displacement at the time of property sale. So they were intrigued by the idea, but not really ready to support that they move forward with the policy right now.
All right, do we have any commissioner questions? All right, I'll go. I think it's so you know, Commissioner Regier said something that made a lot of sense earlier, which was like, you know, you can't only look at the micro, which is the ordinance itself, but you got to look at the macro, the whole package of ordinances. And we spent a significant part of this talking about like controlling rent and deposits and this. And then we're wanting to make a recommendation to say, you should give them a chance to buy $1 million house after we said they can't afford to do $10,000 down payment. It might be a good idea, but I just don't, if I'm sitting on city council, I'm like, what are they doing? Like, are they throwing everything against the wall?
Yeah.
So I don't want to move ahead with it unless somebody else wants to make a motion, but that's just my view on it.
And I would also say that specifically my fellowship and the program that backs it was specifically designed to really help folks at the lowest end of the income spectrum. And it's hard to translate at that point folks who are working minimum wage jobs being able to pool resources. It does happen though. And there have been a lot of cities that have moved forward with TOPA and COPA. And some in the Bay Area are really strongly considering making those policies. So it's a hot topic right now for a lot of people. So we thought we at least needed to look at it.
And the point of relevance is when the President Apartments were surprised at the purchase. And the purchase 2 years ago, it might have been 18, is it 18 or 19, was $65 million. They paid multiples of the appraised value was. I used to know the numbers, but the multiples were so large that I do believe the city struggled with this. And if this property, because of the outsizing and the zoning, you remember that whole discussion, Lauren and Claire, it was really very complicated. In other words, the property was built out to the edge of a zoning code, and it was misstated and it was considered by right. And that's what allowed the hotel developer to go forward. Why does this matter? Because if it had been a normal price of even 20 million, 25 million, there were entities that wanted to work with the city to take this property and turn it into affordable housing. There were people at the table, but when you had a multiple of 65 million, it was impossible. And the developer could not afford to walk away. Okay, so that's why this is an important topic. but in Palo Alto, things may be so out of whack that it's not a reality.
I think policy is always contextual. Sometimes I think we over contextualize it, but you can't you can't be in like one of the like the seventh richest zip code in America and then say we want policies for low income housing and then say let's give you a chance to buy a house. It just doesn't all make sense to me. And I'm a big housing advocate, but I just don't see, even if somebody made $250,000 a year, making the jump to home ownership in Palo Alto.
It's not feasible.
All right.
Can I ask for a protocol? Because I'm wondering what our protocol is, because I thought it was supposed to be raising our hands or you call upon us, Coloma. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking that some of us are muted and some of us aren't, and I'm trying to play accordingly.
I've just been calling as people, I've allowed people to speak, and then, you know, some people have raised their hands or made a sign, and I call on them. I decided to make it more of a free-flowing discussion because I realized.
But I won't raise my hand, and then I'll just keep myself on. Okay.
Because the last time it took us so long to do the round robin thing, and not everybody had something to say. I was just trying to expedite the process tonight. Does that make sense to everybody?
Well, I've been raising my hand, and then I unmute myself, and so I'm just. So anyway, I'm just curious. Not that I'm thinking that we're being slighted. I'm just thinking if we could be kind of courteous of watching each other's hands being raised and keeping ourselves on mute.
It's hard to see your hand, Commissioner Regier, because the yellow books.
Okay.
I just
Thank
noticed.
you.
I hadn't even noticed a hand.
Yeah, I don't have my hand.
No, but before when you started talking, I was like, oh, there's a hand. It's because there's a yellow book behind you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If I hear no motion, we'll move to the next item.
May I ask, but Lauren might need you to make a motion that there is no recommendation on this.
Yes, so the recommendation could be to not support this motion, this policy. The HRC does not support this policy.
Mary, I would just get rid of additionally, because I'll make the motion. I'll get rid of everything after additionally. All right. That's my motion. Can I get a second?
Yes.
All right. We're open for discussion. Any discussion? Okay, let's go to votes. Commissioner Everly.
Aye.
Commissioner Krause.
Aye.
Commissioner Regier.
Nay.
Commissioner Smith, aye. We have a 3-1 vote, so the motion passed. Next item, Lauren.
Okay. The next item is proactive rental inspection, which is really about keeping housing stock safe and up to code. Realize that I'm reading the slide and you're not seeing it. That's not fair. Okay, there we go. So it's about having code inspectors routinely go out and look at all 11,764 rental housing units in Palo Alto and make sure that they're up to snuff. And so staff recommendation was not to pursue this. The PTC also did not want to move forward with the policy at this time. It would impact everybody in substandard housing. That's not a huge portion of the housing in Palo Alto. The cost would also be substantial because it would require a fleet of code enforcement officers. So the feasibility seemed very low.
Commissioners? Any questions? Can I have a motion, somebody?
Do we need to have discussion next?
After, I need a motion in a second. And then you can ask questions of staff before we go to motion though.
I guess I don't have any questions except that I have mixed feelings about it because I do believe that maybe there's a larger percentage that's substandard than the city might be aware of. I also know that people are afraid, and I also think it'd be very intrusive to have people coming every year to check out your house. So I have some ideas. Maybe publicizing the mediation program more so people can make complaints or make anonymous complaints after they leave a house. You know, there are other ways. I do think it's something that the council should address, but there are other ways to address it.
I agree that there's a significant economy in Silicon Valley. I won't go Palo Alto. Silicon Valley, that's been well reported and documented even in New York Times, of garages and other things being used as rental properties. My tension with this is that the people that register their properties to rent aren't the people that are doing the garages. Because it's like, you know, so, or had a legal house or a room set up or whatever in the Bronx or Mount Vernon, you never reported that you had it set up that way. It was sort of, that was your deal. Like, you know, if you're a legitimate landlord, you report, you know, you say this has this and this and this. And, you know, the only time they find out about this stuff is when property changes hands, right? So I think to Commissioner Eberly's point, how do we get not the regular landlords, but like the slumlord kind of activities and the predators? How do we target that without burdening the city with this big infrastructure of people that I would say 80% are probably doing the right thing? 85, 90. I think that's the question. How do we get that undercurrent? I think she had some great suggestions with marketing, outreach, to, you know, like that, you know, how do you speak to communities that are impacted by that? Because I think this puts an unnecessary burden on a group of people that aren't real. I get what they're trying to do, but I don't think it actually addresses the slumlords or the ones that are already skirting the law. It's like the guy that, you know, changes a house into 7 young adults renting out like a 2-bedroom house. Yeah, it's a different thing. All right, do we have a motion? We don't have a motion? I recommend, Mary, if we can come up. The HRC recommends that the city not move forward with this policy at this time.
I'll second it.
Yeah, I was actually going to add something to it. We also recommend that we encourage council or whatever, the HRC encourages council to look at ways to address illegal rentals. Or that, because I don't think we need to address the people that are actually legitimately doing it, but illegal rentals. Do I still have your second, Commissioner Eberly?
Yes, I'll second it.
All right, we're open for discussion.
I think, this is Claire, I think the motion wasn't quite complete on the screen.
I'm sorry, I couldn't find my unmute and I couldn't hear. I'll put it back up.
Illegal rentals was the motion.
The HRC encourages council.
To find ways to address illegal rentals.
Okay.
All right, we're at discussion.
This is Commissioner Regier. I have a thought on that because I know some people that do come to Palo Alto and they don't have enough money right now. And they do live in garages, and that would be illegal, but they do live in garages in regards to living with family members, and they just have a bigger family and they don't have enough room. So that would be considered illegal housing. And we do have them. We do have them in our community. And I would hate for that group. I know what you're getting at, but I'd hate for that group to not to be able to do what they possibly can to live here because of that motion.
But
And it doesn't really take care of slumlords.
But this is the challenge, right? For me, somebody that lives in an unheated, uninsulated, no running water, no matter what the reasoning behind it, it's dangerous. It legitimately is dangerous. If somebody doesn't have running water, doesn't have heat in an uninsulated space, whatever the rationale, it's great, but that's not humane.
No, I totally agree too. I mean, that's why I'm just kind of, it is inhumane, but I mean, I don't know how to get, that's my only problem with the illegal or legal, because I can just see somebody turning those guys in, but not turning in a landlord who has
The real guys.
right.
So here goes the question. If somebody's paying rent, that's illegal. If you have your cousin sleeping in the garage, that's a different thing, right? There's two different, we're talking about illegal rentals, right?
Hey, I think that we're unfortunately fairly well insulated in this group. There are lots of bad actors because I've done a survey. I've gone and looked at rental units for the last 3 months. There is more hanky-panky going on than meets the eye. I've found people renting out not legal rooms like you're talking about, Coloma, that don't have electrical. They're in a condominium. It's a student, what the heck? Well, there's a fire in that unit or that building, what the heck? I think we have to figure out a way that's not onerous in terms of procedure and cost to let people know that we will be spot checking. Not a routine check, but spot checking from time to time. If you have rental units under your control, I think we're not doing our job if we don't do something. Because trust me, this is the gold rush and everybody who has property is rushing to that gold. The things I've seen, you would not imagine. I just kind of like, you did what? That's a rental unit? Thank you so much, and I leave. Sorry.
I think your point is a good one, Commissioner Kraus. I also think that from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of mixed feelings regarding this.
Sure.
And I think that there are many excellent points that are being made tonight. Commissioner Regier also said that we have to consider this in the greater context of the things that we're trying to do. So the whole conversation about everybody deserving a safe and affordable home, we try and get at this with code enforcement. but is that really feasible to do right now? Maybe, maybe not. Do we ask city council to study that with the limited resources that we have? How feasible is that? And so that's what we're trying to sit with tonight is what are the things that we think that we can move forward with that we can realistically take action on?
I agree.
Agreed. Yeah.
Can we put the motion on the screen? Commissioner Everly, would you be amicable for me removing the second sentence?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm ready for a vote if there's no one else. Okay, we'll start at the bottom of the alphabet. Smith at I. Regeer,
Aye.
Kraus,
Nay.
Everly.
Aye.
Thank you so much, everyone. We've reached the end of voting on the actual individual items so that we don't run over ourselves. I would like for Lauren to give a proposed priority order based on her research. And then we can have a discussion if we're going to just rubber stamp that or we want to make amendments to it. Because I think that's an easier way to do it, because then she can explain the logic behind it. Because I think the danger with this part of it is that we're all very passionate about different dimensions of a multifaceted diamond. And I think some information will really help us with this. All right, Lauren, we clear?
All right. Well, I am going to share my screen that goes over the prioritization as we presented it in the staff report, which is right here. Okay, so the way that we prioritized these, the way we presented them is in a specific order. Across the conversations that we have had with different individuals, different commissions, it has seemed that the rental survey program is the most feasible, the most important to move forward with. And then from that point forward, we moved forward with how feasible we considered things based on how costly they were in terms of resources, whether that was monetary or staff time or community will. Lots of things came up. And so really 1 through 9 was how we recommended, how staff recommended they move forward with the prioritization and of staff time in trying to take these on.
Okay. Commissioners, what is your initial thoughts on this order?
I'll go first then. I have, I read the report, I've heard the presentations, and I've looked at it and I thought about it, and I agree with the order. I think it makes sense.
Thank you. Commissioner Kraus?
It's well done. And the only thing I might move up is fair chance and make it number 5 and make security deposit number 6. But that's it.
Commissioner Regeer?
That's exactly, I was going to say the same thing, move number 6 up and maybe move number 4 up to switch 3 and 4. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I too, I mean, this is a great report. Thank you, and all the information, all your things. So but I don't think, I'd rather just agree that's my only thoughts is me. As I would move six up a little bit and anti-rent gouging policy up a little bit, and maybe take two down. But I trust you guys too, so.
I did juggle, I'm sorry, Chair Smith.
Well,
I was just going to, this is Lauren, and I was just going to say that I too struggled with whether fair chance should be 5 or 6. And what it came down to was the number of people that it impacted. And so the security deposit limit, we said, could impact everybody. And the fair chance ordinance would have a smaller impact. And that's why we thought they were both really important, but their scope of impact was the reason that we kind of outlined it that way.
Commissioner Kraus, Commissioner Regier, what do you think of that reasoning?
Oh, I agree. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I get it too.
Yeah, I get it. So I don't have a whole lot of difficulty.
Can I ask about like
Yes.
2 versus 4? I mean, because it seems like if you're saying expand tenant relocation assistance, but anti-rent gouging policy is below that. Can you kind of explain that a little bit, Lauren?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. And so the way that this kind of panned out is the first 2 are those that already exist in the code as ordinances. And so you wouldn't have to do as much work to build it out because specifically it has already passed through the Palo Alto community process. And this is written specifically for Palo Alto. So you would be expanding upon things that already exist in that code. 3 and 4 are based on state legislation. And so you would have to craft patches essentially to make a more local version of the state law AB 1482, the Tenant Protection Act of 2019. And so that's how 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 came to be. Is the rental survey program's been on the books since 2002. Tenant relocation assistance has been there since 2018, but it only impacts 22% of the households that are rental households in Palo Alto currently, because it's for properties that are 50 plus units or more. And then eviction reduction and anti-rent gouging, like I said, were based on AB 1482 and making sure that those carve outs and loopholes, that those people were protected as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions, commissioners? All right, I'll make a motion that we will follow the priority order as laid out by staff.
I second it.
Mary, can you get that on the screen, please?
Mary, you're perfect. All right. We have a second by Commissioner Regier. We're at discussion. Any discussion? All right, we will start at the top of the alphabet. Commissioner Eberly,
Aye.
Commissioner Kraus,
Aye.
Commissioner Regier,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith, aye. I want to take some time to specifically thank Lauren and Claire for 2 things. The first is crafting this phenomenal report. One of the things that is absolutely clear to me is the passion, the research, and the contextualization of the information for our local area. So I'm just really pleased and happy that we got to have this discussion. And we're sitting for almost 4 hours on calls with us. We're grateful for that level of dedication, giving up a couple of Thursdays to be with us. I'd love to hear from our council member before we wrap up this item and move to the next.
So I want to just, second your thanks of staff for bringing this item forward. There's been a lot of difficult, really important, meaningful work, and thanks to the commission for, I think, really creating a good, well-articulated debate of the issues. And I think it's going to be really helpful to be able to see not only the PTCs more kind of, I don't know, just I feel like two very different ways in which the commissions view items and how they're supposed to be tasked with doing the items. And so being able to see the kind of the agreement, the general agreement on the issues, I think is going to really help council to be able to move this forward relatively easily, having the endorsements of both PTC and the HRC on most of these issues. So and I think the ordering made sense, and took notes of a lot of the talking points that many of you are making, because I think they were really good questions that the rest of the council needs to be able to consider. So thanks, good discussion.
Thank you, everyone. All right, Claire and Lauren, if you want to stick around for his wrap, that's always fun. But if you want to go back
Thank
to
you.
Thank you so much for your time.
I will leave you, and thank you all for taking such time and having such passion for this subject. Really, it's truly important work that you're doing, and I so appreciate it. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Thank you so much. All right. We'll move on to the second thing. We are going to do the recommendation from the reviewers to the HRC for the Human Services Resource Allocation Process. His wrap. When I put down my 400-page binder earlier this year, I thought I would not have to pick it up for another 2 years, but we're grateful to the council for acknowledging that that COVID had significant impacts on nonprofits, and that we should extend an extra round of $200,000 of funding. Myself, Commissioner Everly, Mehdi, and Becky, who both serve in nonprofit spaces along with staff, spent, I think, a total of 6 to 7 hours reviewing and talking and discussing applications. The reality for us, year in and year out, every time we do this, is that it is extremely difficult to make the choices, because we have a finite amount of funding and a lot of need in our community. As we looked at it, and I'll ask Commissioner Everly to give her perspective after my perspective, and then we'll go to community. We'll go to the response time. We really significantly looked at quality of application. We focused a lot in on healthcare and those needs that were being met. We also tried to find the best way to support educational organizations. You know, we were there is one significant thing that I need to talk about is, you know, one of the critical components of his wrap, and this is defined as the city has defined it, is that we cannot be the solo funding source for any organization. So unfortunately, one of our applicants asked us to be basically the solo funding source, and we were unable to support them. Everybody else got funding, and we did our best to spread it across. As again, we started focusing really on health, then went into education, and we felt like we'd done a great job covering as much of the need as possible. Commissioner Everly, do you have anything to add?
I totally agree with what Commissioner Smith has said. We did spend a lot of time looking and we had very thoughtful conversations and we did try to do the best that we could, you know, and balancing all these not-for-profits needs and what they were going to do with the funding and how COVID impacted them. And some of them did a really good job in tying in, you know, how COVID impacted their organizations and what they were going to do with the money. And we kept in mind that because of COVID, a lot of residents of the city of Palo Alto might have not gotten the medical care that they needed. And we also believe that there was going to be more medical care needed now that, you know, more people are going to the doctor or need to go to the doctor. So we did keep the COVID impact in mind. But I think, you know, we tried really hard and did the best that we could.
So I would like to start by the allocation. Ability Path received $18,884.25. Dreamcatchers received $15,000, is proposed, not received. We have to vote. Proposed, $15,000. Karat School Project received $18,884.25. Life Move received $30,000. It is proposed $30,000. Parker, $20,000. Peninsula Healthcare Connection, $33,825. Ravenswood Family Health Network, $25,000. Vista for the Blind, $18,713. Youth Community Services, $19,693.50. As you can see, we tried our best to spread it across all organizations. And the one thing I really do need to stress is, as we've read this application, we see the difficulty of the funding landscape and understand that we're trying our best to help programs with the limited funds that we have. At this time, I would like to open up for public comment. Staff, we will hold it to 2 minutes and you can pick the order.
So any members of the public that would like to address the HRC on this matter, please raise your hand. At this point, I see one hand, which is Aram James. Aram, go ahead. You have 2 minutes. Aram? Okay, if Aram wants to raise his hand, he can. The second speaker is, oh, Evelyn, your hand went down. So Evelyn, if you still want to speak, can you raise your hand again? There you are. Evelyn, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Hi, everybody. Evelyn Kiomia here. I just want to thank the HSRAP. We know that it is not an easy task and the needs are ever growing. And but I know that you guys have really been looking at the RV population in our community, especially the children and their needs for inclusion in our community and for better services. And our attempts to help break the barriers to access to programs in general and equity in education. So I just wanted to say that, you know, we know that you guys are working and it's not an easy task. And from the RV population, the children and everybody else at the KSP and myself included, I just wanted to thank you guys for all you're doing.
Thank you, Evelyn. Are there any other members of the public who wish to address the Human Relations Commission? Chair, I see no other hands.
Thank you so much. All right. We had a little bit of a free-flowing discussion before because I felt it would accelerate the conversation, but this time I would like to go in commissioner order, and we'll do it alphabetically. Myself and Commissioner Eberly will answer any questions that Commissioner Krause or Gear might have. And then we can go and see if we can have a motion. Commissioner Krause, do you have any questions?
Just one. These are the monies that we have available that you have made recommendations. Is anybody being a liaison to more of the rescue monies that are federally available? Nothing?
I don't know. That's beyond my purview. I would have to leave that to staff to answer.
Okay.
I would say if there was money that came to local nonprofits through the CDBG program, through the American Rescue Plan, and that was all allocated last spring. So there were several local nonprofits that received funding through the Community Development Block Grant. If you're asking beyond that, I would have to check. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. I mean, there's other federal funding that has become available in the area of vaccine distribution and access. Things that are out there. And maybe we can take this offline and I'll give you a list of the formal organizations I know about.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions on the specific allocations this time?
No.
Thank you. Commissioner Regehr.
I just want to say thank you to both of you and to the staff. I know this is tremendously hard and it's not only financially drenching, but it's also emotionally and ethically. And I just want to thank you both for the hard decisions you guys had to do. And
Thank you.
Thank you. I will put a motion on the board.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just asking if they wanted just to see the spreadsheet actually on the
You can see
screen.
the spreadsheet.
That would be great.
Yeah.
One thing I did see is that you allocated a much larger bucket to Life Moves, and thank you.
So Mary, if you could just show the attachment A for a minute. Okay, and commissioners, just let me know when you want Mary to take this down, because then she needs to put up another screen for the motion.
Has everybody absorbed this yet?
I have about 3 electronic devices going so I can see everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On my iPad.
All right.
Okay, Mary, if you want to get the motion screen.
All right. I would like to put a motion to accept the recommendation of his HISRAC Selection Committee. And we recommend this to the Finance Committee.
It goes straight to the city
Yeah.
council. So the recommendation would be to pass on the recommendation of the HISRAC reviewers to the city council.
right,
Okay, to the city.
Yes.
I second it.
Thank you. Let's do a vote from the bottom of the alphabet. Smith, aye. Regehr,
I,
Krause,
Aye.
Eberly.
Aye.
I keep pausing because I keep wanting to say Savage and Krause, but Daryl's not here tonight. So
I know.
throwing me for a little loop. So thank you so much. Let us move on to Council Member Stone.
I don't have anything to add, just to thank the subcommittee that worked on that. I think I served on the HISRAP little subcommittee every time it came up while I was on the HRC, and it's a tireless, thankless job. So I know the pain and I appreciate it because it's so important what those dollars go to. So thanks to the subcommittee and the full HRC.
Also, I want to thank Commissioner Epperly. This was her first HISRAP, and she did phenomenal. She asked a lot of really good questions, brought up a lot of good points. So thank you, Commissioner Epperly. All right, we might actually make it out on time tonight. Look at this. We are on update the next steps on items related to the fiscal 21-22 work plan. I'm going to put Councilmember Stone on the spot because we hung out at Policy and Services for a couple of hours a lot of hours the other night. And I would love for him to just give, I can give the take, but we presented the report to Policy and Services, and they're recommending it to go to council. They also had some other items they recommended for us to go to council. So I'd love for Commissioner Stone to sort of just give an overview of like his perspective and what he saw and what we had and what could be possibly coming for us.
Well, overall, and to thank the commission again for the report. I think overall it impressed the Policy and Services Committee, and there was just a unanimous agreement that it was something that the full council should see and be aware and have an opportunity to be able to digest and ask questions. And I think we're excited for the well, I guess kind of the work plan that was submitted, or like kind of the ideas as far as where the HRC is going to go to next. So I think there's some excitement there. One of the issues that will be coming before you is the possibility of some sort of city ordinance that could see can the city offer additional protections to the community from hate speech that doesn't quite rise to the level of a hate crime that the district attorney would prosecute under the state penal code, but still offer some opportunity for justice for those who have found themselves to be victims of that type of speech. And of course, the delicate work that's going to have to be done here, and I think the HRC is going to be kind of looked at as far as like kind of like the policy area, but of course then there's going to be a heavy lift from the city attorney's office to be able to craft language to make sure that it's not running afoul of the First Amendment and other constitutional protections. So I think the Policy and Services Committee recognized that difficult task that's before you, as well as the city attorney's office. But we've seen these incidents happen. You are more aware than anyone in the community about those incidents, and so I think it's an important job, but one that it's really kind of exploratory at this time. And I think that's why it's going to be important for it to go through the HRC to really just figure out, is this feasible? Does it make sense? Does it offer the type of protections that we're hoping, or is this just kind of a feel-good project that's not actually going to do that? And so I think we're eager to have the HRC vet that issue that will certainly get a lot of attention when those issues come down. And you've already been hearing from some people in the public who have concerns about it as well, and but who are also hopeful for it too. So that, I guess that would be my report. And Chair Smith, if there's anything else you want to expand on for that.
There was one other thing that they asked us to do. Staff, do you remember? Because I remember us thinking there was the.
I thought it was just the continued
CDOT.
work on inclusion and belonging.
Inclusion and belonging, and there was something about CDOT that night, was there not, or no?
Oh,
I would have to look back at the motion for CDOT. The HRC did make a decision in the past year that CDOT, they had worked on CDOT, and that they had done the work, the level of work to get it to council, and now it was up to staff and council to work on that. That was, my internet went out in the middle of this, and I think
You're right.
on the
You are
deputy city manager pinched hit for me. So I'd have to get clarification of that, but there was a conscious decision that the HRC did not have the capacity to take that back on. And I just want to interject because I thank the chair and the council member for bringing up that referral there. So that referral can be noted tonight because it is something that may fit in with the inclusion and belonging and hate crime that is already on your agenda, but any discussion of it, I would not go forward with any discussion. It has not been agendized. I would say that there is a point that probably after you finish your introduction, Chair, and before you go any further, that we should go to public comment.
Okay. Can we bring up the work plan? Or do you want me to go public comment first?
I think if the work plan suffices as your report to the HRC, then the work plan should come up first. So Mary, if you could bring up the work plan and then we will go to public. We can go to questions by the HRC and then public comment.
The only other thing, and the reason I brought up the work plan is that deals with two of our significant things, belonging and hate. I know that Commissioner Regehr and Kraus have been engaged on the homelessness front because I received a survey. So I'd love to hear a little bit about where they are with that, please.
Do you want to do that? Yes, go ahead. Sorry, sir.
I thought that we would do that in our report, but if you want to do it, because but if you want to hear it now, I could.
I felt like it would be good to talk about right now, since we are talking about the work plan and we talked about the other two pieces, and this is a third significant leg of it. So I wanted to give it as much air this time as the other part.
Okay. So there's a survey that we did with Palo Alto Forward and a group of people, and we sent out 60. Is this what you want to hear? Is this?
Mm-hmm.
And 60 surveys went out. We only got 13 responses and 8 response. And the question was, one of the questions was, would you consider thinking about having housing on your face on the lot? And 8 responses said yes or maybe. One of the roadblocks, and this is after Stevens Hill, is, and Chair Smith, you brought this up when we had the motion in September, was that a lot of faith leaders are feeling that the community is kind of the fear of their neighbors with this, and that's what came up. So that's what the survey results. Michelle, do you have anything else to say, or do you have any more questions? Cloma?
So I would say this, I was surprised, because I saw the survey numbers because I'm on the same email list. I was surprised, that you got that many responses because to this topic, because people obviously feel on some level that they've been burned. But the fact that you had 80 to 90% of them still willing to at least have some level of dialogue or discussion shows there might be some value in pursuing this. It might not be as expansive as we thought, but there is something there. And this is why I wanted to bring it up with the work plan, because I wanted to say, I was surprised that you got that level of positive affirmation from the other people. Because at the end of the day, in order for a project like this to work, you don't need 50 people to agree. You just need 1 or 2 properties that are willing to work with you.
Right. So Commissioner Kraus, do you have any more to add?
No, I think that was a good summary. It was a good survey. It was distributed well. And the numbers of responses were surprising and engaging. So there's something yet to be done here, Coloma.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It wasn't as much of a dead end as I felt the last time. We can, staff, we can now go to public comment because we've covered the three main areas.
I'll just wait for the clock to be up and then I will call public comment. Thank you, Mary. We have one hand up. Aram, go ahead, please. You have 2 minutes.
So City Council Member Stone, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's going to be an extraordinary lift and not a task I think that the HRC should be subject to. And that is to try to expand the concept of a hate crime to standalone hate speech. It's a very slippery slope. I know as the son of a Jew, very proud of my Jewish heritage, I'm equally offended and critical of the state of Israel. I consider them a genocidal state engaged in war crimes. And I know there are those in the Zionist supremacist community that would like to prevent me from speaking those criticisms at all and would consider that a hate crime and hate speech. And then the next thing would be for somebody else to say that they think that critical race theory is also a hate crime. Now, I know that conversation is going on in a town in Texas, believe it or not. I think it's Lakeshore, Texas. So it's extraordinarily slippery slope when you try to define mere speech as a hate crime, as opposed to what Councilmember Greer said, penal code sections that combine speech with an actual act. So I just think it's a fruitless exercise and one that the city attorney's office needs to deal with, and not the HRC. On the other hand, as I said in my letter, no matter how despicable or ignorant such standalone hate speech might be, it's not a crime, nor it should be. So what I'm trying to say is, look, if somebody uses the N-word against a member of my family, I'm going to get very upset, and maybe there's going to be some action that I'll personally take and have to deal with the consequences. But I don't think standalone hate speech should be a crime, and I hope that you don't go down that road.
Anyone else there?
There are no more hands up, Chair.
All right. So commissioners, I will say this. I would love for Commissioner Regeer and Commissioner Kraus. What are we, a week and a half, 2 weeks away from our October meeting?
2 weeks, I think.
2 weeks, okay. To at least by next meeting, start fleshing out some next steps,
Did I freeze or did you freeze?
No, I think he froze.
Okay.
The great Zoom
When I'm
question.
talking about a hot topic.
I know, and it's like, hello.
I will let him know.
Because we're getting an assignment.
I know.
He's back.
Oh, he's back. You're
Chair
back.
Smith, you froze.
We lost you.
I thought everybody was staring at me. I was like checking my face.
So
Okay, am I back? Am I back now? Can you hear me?
yeah.
I was just saying, on our third leg of our focus, there is something there. I don't know what that there is, and maybe in 2 weeks we can identify and clarify what that next step is. Thank you.
Right. So we'll try, but what I'm saying is that our plan is, just so you kind of know, is to meet with other people. We've been meeting with other people too, to decide what the next plan is, and because we have to work with varieties of people that have their hands and knowledge about this. So we'll have, that is what our next step is to take this information and talk with different groups before we make a settled plan, because Michelle, can you kind of,
Patty, I think we can go offline and get a little more granular of who these 8 and 13 represented, the size of the properties, where they're located, keeping them anonymous.
right, because
And
we know,
maybe some-
right, because we all know that. So we'll take you to say, Paloma, but
Because we just got the data this week.
We did.
but in my head, I've been working on housing for quite some time and meeting. with
I know.
So I think I will take it in. I would like to have a discussion, more of a discussion as a commission of what you guys all think too, because we are a commission. It's not just a Patty and Michelle housing team. You know what I'm saying? So if we could make it in a thing of a discussion of what our research is and what we all think as a commission we should be.
Well, I think what the commission would need is, I think what you guys so eloquently just proved is feasibility. Like there's 13 people that are somewhat interested, that their biggest issue is community pushback. Now that we have some interest, what do we propose? We have a concept proposed to them, but what does that look like? Who are the partners, the people, the players, the possibilities, the communities, the neighborhoods? You know, I think once we have some more of that fleshed in, we can have a more dynamic, more dynamic discussion. And I also think, you know, you might not, that's a big ask for the next time, but maybe the next time you say, we're gonna do coffee with 3 developers and 6 people and have an informal discussion. That would be enough for me to say, let's go ahead and have that kind of thing to start the process. I just think we want to have the discussion, and I think the survey was really helpful.
Okay.
Because it proved to me that there is, you know, some 17% of the 60 people that want to have some level of dialogue over this. What does that look like? I don't know.
Right, because my only point is because I really kind of wanted to talk to you before about all this being irreverent, but because of the Brown Act, we really can only have a discussion at our meetings.
Yes, we can.
So I think that's what and I know it's time consuming, but this is a serious and a complex issue, and so maybe that I would like just a little bit more to hear from Adriana and you, Smith, of like what you envision our city to look like in regards to how, you know what I mean, so that is not just like us just running, since we can't talk to you guys outside of a meeting. So where
I'm at with this, and then I can ask Adriana, is I feel like we have an ember of an idea. We have an idea and we have some embers on the ground. There isn't even smoke yet. There's just embers. And I think we have to, like Michelle said, figure out what feasibility is. What is the image and intention in people's minds? What are the congregational challenges? Are there developers on the other side? Are we doing this in a vacuum? Like so I think there's enough there to start an investigative process.
Okay.
And then on the flip side of it, it's like, we aren't far enough down the road, but when do we, as a commission of only 5 individuals that are volunteering, tap out and start saying, we need to talk, that maybe this should be a council thing, maybe this is a private conversation for the developer and the church to figure out before they go to council. And, you know, I don't know where we tap out, because, so that's where I'm at.
Right.
Commissioner Everly?
So I'm feeling, well, I don't, I haven't seen the survey. I'm a little blind here. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what the results of the survey
Right.
are. or what
Right.
So I think that's why it'll be important to have it on the next agenda so that the commission feels completely informed. I think Chair Smith, because he's steeped into the local faith community, it feels different, but I think you're just voicing that it needs to be on the agenda so that if there's members of the public that have some comments as well. So we need to,
Right.
I think, respect the level of discussion for today.
Right. And Phyllis, because I wanted to go back to, we did make a motion last meeting. And that was to have a meeting with developers and faith leaders. And remember, and so I think we did make that motion that we were going to do something in October.
Yes, but I don't know anything
No.
about it.
What I'm saying is that I understand that. I totally agree. But we made a motion and I don't know how that we were going to do something. And I don't really think that we should be doing it, is what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
So how about this? I agree with staff. Let's make this agenda item number 1 next month. We will do we will circulate to all commissioners the survey.
Well,
Now, this will actually be agenda item number 2. I know what agenda item number 1 will be, but let me just, agenda item number 2, we will circulate the survey, we'll circulate the results, and you can, we can come up with what possibly next steps are. Because if you feel like the event in October is not going to work, are we going to do an event in November or December? Or are we not going to do an event? Or are we going to go with a different approach?
I was just trying to clarify I mean, I don't know what the protocol is once we make a motion that we're going to do something, do we just not do it? That's all. I'm just trying to follow the T's. That's all.
I'm trying to go back. What month was that, Commissioner
That's
Regier, so I can read?
That was last month. That was
I
last
don't. Let me see.
month. I think it was close to the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion was Commissioner Kraus moves, second by Commissioner Regier, to support Commissioner Regier and Kraus to articulate and develop a plan for an affordable housing event in the fall timeframe. So so I wanted to make the clarification if you were getting the permission to do the event. So that might be speaking to some of your questions, do we need to come back? But it says that they were given support to articulate and develop a plan.
Okay.
So it looks
Perfect.
like that there
Okay.
will be the need to come back in October, and we can go from there. But I wanted to respect what the HRC, but respect, that if you felt that it had gone a step further than that. could
Okay,
be
perfect.
there.
Okay, thank you. Because I knew we made a motion. Thank you.
Right. Okay. When does the policy and service committee stuff go to staff? Goes to council, sorry.
That would depend. Sometimes it's not just immediately, like policy and services met September something, then ASAP, it's on the council agenda. There could be a couple months delay because there might be some aspects of what was decided that staff needs to work on to get some more information, so that when the full council has the discussion, that if there's any ambiguities or any staff work that needed to happen, that it happens first. So I have not heard, I'm not sure if Council Member Stone has heard, but I can put that down as a to-do list for me to see if, are you talking specifically about the hate speech items, Chair?
I'm talking specifically about the belonging
Okay,
and the hate speech, because they're two significant parts of our portfolio.
I hear you. I have not gotten an update yet, but I will check and let you know.
All right. That's it. So that covers our 3 goals from our work plan. I think we're in a little bit of stasis until we meet the next time. Now we have, what's next? Commissioner reports. Okay, I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to do staff reports first because there's something that will be an agenda item. So I want them to do that first.
Well, the staff update are 2 things. And one is that there is a distinct possibility that our meeting in 2 weeks will be in person. We are gaining more information about that and looking for what opportunities there will be for the public to still meet in a hybrid fashion. The council will be discussing that a little bit more at the end of their meeting on
What is the date on that, Minka?
when the council will be discussing it.
Over our next meeting, is that the
It's the
7th?
second Tuesday, I think it's the 12th, second Thursday, it's the 12th, I believe.
Fif-
I have, what is the second
October.
Thursday? Who's faster than me?
Is it October 15th?
October
It's the
14th.
14th.
Okay.
Okay. I was-
October,
Physically in town the first week of the month, so I was like,
okay. So we are looking in what the possibilities are. There's still options that if the HRC is back in its old room, or if the HRC will be in council chambers to allow for more social distancing, there will be every precaution taken as far as distancing of not only the HRC, but distancing of the public. If the we're still looking at the options for, commission members that are not able to feel like they're able to attend in person. I will tell you, for those that have been around a long time, you will know that the Brown Act does allow you not to be in person, but that the statutes associated with that is that you need to be in a location that is open to the public and noticed on the agenda. So if you continue to be at home, your home address would have to be on the agenda and your front door would have to be open. Staff is looking into an option if there is a concern by any commissioners. And since it's not a discussion tonight, if you want to contact me outside of the meeting, if there's, for instance, like an offsite, like at one of our community centers, if most of you are fine with being back at City Hall, if that's the direction we go, but some of you say, no, I don't want to be in a major room, we might try to get, a room in one of our community centers if you just want to be there, 1 person, 2 persons with your laptop, accessing the meeting remotely. We are getting more information about this all the time. I'm just saying that it looks like we're going the hybrid direction, but what hybrid looks like exactly, I don't have the full answer, but Mary and I as staff are looking for ways to still make it work for folks while, respecting whatever safety concerns they have. Commissioner Regier.
This is more directly to, not that Bridgestone is our only person here. So my question is there any movement in the city council to follow like San Francisco or New York, saying you have to show your vaccine card or have a test before you enter a building? Has there been any discussion of that for the city?
I have not heard that, council member.
Yeah, no talks about that, but I think that could be something that could be discussed on Monday when hybrid meetings are agendized.
I mean, San Francisco requires it for you to go into a restaurant.
Or music venue or.
Mhm.
I don't.
So, and what is council?
Thank you.
Are you guys meeting in person?
We begin hybrid meetings on October 4th, and I'm pretty sure it's it's agendized for this Monday to start talking about the particulars of how that's going to actually work.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, staff, next item, please.
That's all I had. Today was the deadline for the Emerging Needs Fund quarterly deadline, and I did not get any applications. I'll see if some come. I didn't give a time, so I guess I would accept something up until midnight, but wanted to give that update. And I had one more thing, but I will talk about that at agenda planning.
All right, any commissioner reports? Yes,
I have the policing report from Daryl and myself.
please go ahead.
Do you want me to read it into the record? How would you like to handle it?
However you feel that we get the information.
Well, I would have liked to distribute it so you all could have read
So-
it.
You can do that next time. If you want to hold off to report next time, we'd be able to,
Question for you, Michelle, does that include
Sure.
the K-9 policy?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so let us agendize that item because
Yes,
there's some specific policy stuff that I asked Commissioner Krause and Commissioner Savage to go back and ask
Yeah.
questions.
we did, and we held that discussion on your direction.
Thank you.
It discusses Fuki Sushi and the police vacancies. You know, it's fairly in-depth. We had a meeting with the chief and the assistant chief.
Yeah, I had asked them to go back because we wanted to get some really specific data around the K-9 policy
Yes,
and around vacancies, Fuki Sushi, hate crimes. So
we have it.
there's some significant data points there. So I think we should actually agendize that item.
That would be fine because I'd like a larger discussion.
I think it's
I
a good
think
point.
it's really important.
Thank
In the interim, should I share this?
You can't share it. You have to send it to staff. And then
Okay,
Brown
thank you.
Brown Act doesn't allow us to share documents.
I know, that's why I'm asking what,
Mhm.
how do I do this?
You're muted, Mika.
Okay, I'll
can
send
be
it
in,
to
we
you.
can be in discussion and to see what is possible afterwards, Commissioner Krause.
Certainly.
Any other commissioner reports?
Yeah, could you give, I think, I sent you a note. I do a report, but can you go first? Just what you've been up to, Cloma? And
I actually did reach out to the mayor and I resent it to him. And
Thank you.
I'm waiting for a follow-up response. I have
mhm.
He
Since some
said
people,
he didn't see my original email, so I re-forwarded the email that I sent. I think it was in May or June that I sent it. And so I'm waiting for a response from him.
great.
Okay, I did follow up when you sent me the request of Commissioner Regier.
So Adriana, Commissioner, what it was regarding, and I think it was in March, we were contacted by someone to ask if the mayor could sign the letter that for an anti-Semitism letter that different mayors have signed, like Redwood City, Mountain View, Berkeley. And we made the motion and we're still waiting for the mayor to sign this letter for an anti-Semitism letter. So and I was contacted yesterday about it, like what's going on with it. So that's what the letter is. It's for him just to join in with the mayors throughout the country for an anti-Semitism, which the commission had voted on.
All right.
So that's what it's regarding. So my report is that this is two things is that regarding housing is that we've been working on that, and I want to really make a shout out to City Council Member Greer Stone, for all his work that he did for the Stevenson House and the information that he gave. I think that is tremendous regarding unhoused people and criminal background checks. I and many other people worked many hours on doing research and trying to figure out, and so I was glad that that went through with the Stevenson House and the Unitarian parking lot. The other thing on a positive, Palo Alto renters, they're having their first annual picnic this Sunday. And I just wanted to say that's going to be at 11 o'clock at Johnson Park. And they asked for me to mention that it's for everybody and they're really following safety guidelines by masking, etc. So they're hoping that renters will come. I mean, there's 46% of Palo Alto residents are renters. So that's a tremendous amount of people that are renters. So I hope people show up. It's also, and I'm also a mental health person. So Suicide Prevention Month is well, now, or it was, and the city, I was reached out by the city of Mountain View is doing a hot, like a training, but it's free of you go online for what to do if you think that you might be near someone's for suicide, like how to counsel people, and it's a free training that the city of Mountain View is doing, and anyone can do it. It's pretty quick. I guess I've done a lot of stuff around the housing, but like we went to see Life Moves, the new facility on Langhorne. I went to see the one in Pastor Baines. We also worked with Palo Alto Forward. We had the journalist who's doing, and we had about 40 people show up to say who are the unhoused people, and we had a photo exhibit, and we had people coming, and just who are these unhoused people in that region, and that was interesting. So that's about it.
Okay. Yes, Minka.
I forgot one important thing is the council will be discussing the home key application on Monday night. And that is the application with the city for going forward with the application with Life Moves for a home key site here in Palo Alto to turn in an application. So there's been a lot of hard work on that.
Did you tell Ms. Eisenberg that one?
Pardon me?
Did you tell Rebecca? Give a straight face. All right. Myself and Commissioner Epperly gave like 2 hours of our life doing his RAP applications. Commissioner Epperly actually flew in from Europe and got up the next morning jet lagged for the final review. Like that's real dedication. I would have told people we would see you next week after I got over the jet lag, but great dedication to getting those applications done. We got to spend a few hours hanging out with Commissioner Stone, with Councilmember Stone and Councilmember Tanaka and Councilmember Koo at Policy and Service, which was a great conversation. We had, it was very informative, and it was great to watch Policy and Service actually active. And we had the PD give a report, the HRC gave a report, staff gave a great report on their initiatives around diversity and inclusion. So it was great to hear that even though we were working on our piece of that puzzle, there's other parts of the city. So it was really informative. So grateful for that. We continue to do all our other community activities. I've had some great conversations with former Commissioner Sunita Deterial around some stuff with PP. I've spoken to the Assistant Chief. That's how I found out about the K-9 stuff and asked Commissioner Savage and Commissioner Kraus to go back and say, we've heard about the the community complaints around the canine policy. And some of these changes are significant, so it was good to have that piece included. It was good. I've had a lot of great conversations with Angie over on the renter side, and she's given a lot of great insight. So, you know, we are just continue to be engaged in the community. You know, I'm looking forward to where we go from here. Commissioner Everly?
I just have one
Any
thing.
report?
Yeah, well, as you are well aware, I worked on the HISRAP application process. And then they've asked me, the Palo Alto Public Art Program is doing the King Artist Residency, and I'm on that selection panel as well. So I've reviewed lots of portfolios and applications for that as well, and have had one meeting, and then we're going to have another meeting. And this was born out of something that they did consulting the Human Relations Commission, but that was before my time.
Mhm.
So I'm going to read. So the selected artists or team will be asked to engage the community in conversations about equity, inclusion, and belonging in Palo Alto. So I am the member from the HRC that's also on that selection panel.
Thank you. Well, commissioners, I can't say how happy I am to hear the depth of your activity, from the arts to the PD to homelessness to working with council. Councilmember Stone, if you can give us back the 2 members you guys took, we could even do more for the community. We could do more. I tell you, we could do more. But I am grateful. The last report we have to hear before we wrap up tonight, before we get to agenda planning, is our council member report, or council liaison report.
Thanks, Chair Smith. And at this point, I think I've already said everything that I would need to say in my report. And Minka, thanks for giving the shout out to Project Home Key on Monday. One additional thing that might interest the commission coming up on Monday is a proposed project for 50 units of affordable rental housing, and a large portion of that is reserved for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, which we all know is definitely in short supply here in Palo Alto, that type of housing. So if the HRC is interested in that item is going to be on Monday. And yeah, just kind of share, I'm very impressed with how active the commission has been, and all the commissioners. So thanks for the work that you continue to do.
I just want to add something to Greer. I mean, I've been attending those meetings with Eden and on Charleston, and they've been very thorough. I mean, with asking for involvement, and it seems like a great thing that's going to be happening for. So I hope, I don't know, it's just a plug. It's really wonderful that it's happening.
Grateful. Well, let's go to agenda planning.
I had one reminder.
Wait 1 second.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Everly?
I have a question about the work plan. So I am not on any of these subcommittees on the work plan.
We'll put you on the belonging subcommittee.
Okay.
Belonging in 8, because commission, we need somebody to help us continue the work of our former vice chair, Valerie Stinger. So I'll catch up with you in the intervening 2 weeks and sort of give you where we're at with some of it.
Okay.
Commissioner Regeer, you have your hands up again? You're muted.
I took her hand down.
Okay.
But Commissioner Eberly was right that you, with those yellow books, your hand was getting totally obscured by it.
Yes. So staff, let us
Yes.
go through agenda planning.
Right.
Item-
So the first one was just a reminder that you were going to revisit elections for vice chair.
Yes, we will do elections of vice chair on as a first item for the next meeting.
Okay.
All right. let us go to item number 2, which will be our continued work with Commissioner Kraus, Commissioner Garrett on the church development conceptual framework, however you'll label that. Item number 3 will be a report from Commissioner Savage and Commissioner Kraus concerning policing and what their extensive discussion with PD has revealed. I would Commissioner Kraus, do you think it would be helpful if we invite somebody from PD as you give your report?
I think it might be
Okay.
useful.
I think it would be good to clarify what the actual purpose is. Is the purpose just to update the HRC? Is the purpose to have the HRC discuss any type of draft policy and give
If-
comment back to the
if-
council? I think that would,
It would be a simple update with questions why policy decisions were made. Like, so for example, we know we're going to talk about canine policy.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure after Commissioner Kraus and Commissioner Savage give it, I'm pretty sure public is going to have a response, and maybe it would be good for PD to be able to explain themselves. I don't want to just throw something out there.
no,
And then
I agree.
Give
So-
people it.
I'm still feeling a little unsure.
all it
So this is update on liaison
Report.
conversation with PED, but that's different than actually going in and expecting the public to give comment on specific policy things.
They give the report and they say, for example, this is a canine policy. This is what they've given us a report for, right?
Right.
What if I have a question that goes beyond what Michelle or Daryl can provide?
So you can those liaisons can note your questions to take back to the chief. What I'm concerned, because I know the canine policy is of significant community concern. So I want to be cautious in the way that it comes to the HRC, in that it comes in a way that's fully understood what's happening. So if it's just they're giving their report and they're soliciting HRC feedback for further questions back to the council.
No,
No,
this is
Go ahead.
just an explanation of the current policy and why the decisions were made. That's it.
And we do have current responses from PD on the canine policy and the revisions that have been made. And that way, it might be useful to have PD there, if not the chief, the assistant chief.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let me talk with staff. Because I get what you're
Um,
saying, because when,
Right, but if you talk to staff, that will ensure that Commissioners Kraus and Commissioner Savage cannot communicate about this between the two meetings. So they will have to identify a representative.
So can I clarify something? I think I think we need to figure out what is the role of a liaison talking to the police, like any type of liaison, like if court obviously have, but I think that if we're saying these things are really important that we're bringing up, that we don't want another to meet. I don't know when the next time they're going to meet, because in the past they haven't met for very often with the police as a liaison or even given a report. So my concern is that as a commissioner and for the public, is that if we wanted if we want to take what Commissioner Kraus just responded briefly on the report, and we wanted to expand it in further, then maybe we should have I feel that we
Right.
should have the police there.
So-
Because, I'm saying that because we can't talk about it any other time. But,
Oh,
but if we're not,
but-
because
just-
I would hate to think that we're taking these issues and they're just we're gonna give the report and then we ask them questions and then
So-
no, they haven't met, and then November, and then we don't meet in December, and then by January. I mean,
So
that's my
this is
concern.
what I-
You
Commissioner-
froze again. You're freezing, Coloma.
No, I actually paused, actually paused that time. That wasn't a freeze, that was a pause. I will say that I was only able to speak to Commissioner Savage, but she was super responsive. So they met with the assistant chief. I spoke with him, we're doing coffee, good friends, XYZ. He told me some stuff. And I was like, have you shared this with our liaison? And he says, no. So I go back to Commissioner Savage and I say, Commissioner Savage, please reach out. Within a week or 2 weeks, they had already done the meeting. They were super
Right.
responsive to us. So I don't have any significant concerns as a chair that if we need them to go back, that it will be like we don't meet for another 60 days.
No,
I'm not really very much concerned because this summer they turned around 2 meetings within a month.
Okay, I think we need to, it's becoming almost a discussion and I'm concerned about the Brown Act. I think at this point, what we can say is that I will be either in dialogue with the chair or the 2 liaisons, or maybe the liaisons can identify one of them for me to meet with the chair. And I think we need to kind of couch it at this point.
And like I do.
Minka, for a moment, can I speak? I was at these meetings. I took notes. We reported in. They are extremely responsive. I have a report for you in my hand that Darrell and I agreed on. But if you choose to agendize it, it just gets complicated in terms of the Brown Act. That's all.
I agree with you, Commissioner Kraus, but I'm also trying to balance community interest.
Absolutely.
So let us do this. Minka, I will have you talk to the 2 liaisons. And you guys tell me what you think is the proper approach, and we will take that approach at the next meeting. Does that sound reasonable?
That's fine with me. It's just, I
got you.
I want clarity as staff, and if it's something that involves other city staff, I want clarity as to what their role may be or may not be and what, the end result is, because I want to set this conversation up for the outcome that you're looking at.
And I'll tell you where my mind and my heart is with this. As the Human Relations Commission, I believe that if the public has shown interest in something, we should give the opportunity to share the information. We have understanding in this process that we're reporting information more than being in the deliberative process than other things. So I just want to make sure that when we present this information, it's done in a way that's responsible, that we're in the right place. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to leave this to the 2 liaisons and staff to come up with the right strategy. If your report, you report it out the way you need to report it out. Make sense? All right. Any other items that we need to add or before we wrap it up for the night?
You might want the opportunity to Oh, yes, Mary let me know that you you will need to revisit the starting time of the meeting. The vote for the starting time of the meeting is it would start at 6 o'clock, and that would be revisited when you all go back in person. So you will need to revisit that.
We will do that at the next meeting.
Okay, and then you might just want to keep a general update on work plan items. This isn't 2 weeks, so you may not have anything more
That's
than
not-
what you did.
that's
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted clarity. Okay,
Yeah, because the items that would need to, we won't get back from Policy Service or Council, the two big items. And the other item around homelessness is ready to, not homelessness, around the church home, affordable housing project has already been agendized. So I feel pretty comfortable that we don't have to look at the work plan next month, look at it in November.
okay.
All right, everybody, I think we've covered it all. And look at that, 8:36. What are y'all gonna do with the extra 3 hours this evening? All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming this evening. Great work. Never would I think we would do his wrap and renters policies under 3 hours. This is a record. Y'all are like blowing it up. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.